Morning, dear Sangha. Today is Sunday, the 11th of December in the year 2005, and we are in the Upper Hamlet during our winter retreat. If you have been in hell, and then you have the capacity to recognize paradise. You may be in paradise, but you don't recognize it. You are not capable of touching it. But if you have already been in hell, many of us have been, and then you have a chance, you have an opportunity, because being in hell is a very basic condition for us to be able to recognize that we are in paradise, in the kingdom of God, in the pure land of the Buddha. Suffering is the background. Suffering is the condition. When you practice mindful walking, you may touch the kingdom of God, the pure land of the Buddha with every step. Because you have had a chance to walk in hell. It's so hot, it's so difficult. That is, now you are capable of touching the pure land, the kingdom of God. Those of us who have been in hell, we are lucky, because we know what it is like hell. And if you compare with the situation now, we can recognize that we are very lucky. We now have the capacity of walking in paradise. When you practice walking, you involve your body into the practice. Of course, you don't walk with your mind. If you walk with your mind, only you get lost. In the Vietnamese Gatha, we recite đi chơi trong bản môn nên đi bằng hai chân, không nên đi bằng đầu sẽ lạc. It means that enjoy walking in the ultimate dimension. You have to walk with your feet. You should not walk with your mind. If you walk with your mind, you will get lost. So in walking meditation, you have to involve your feet. You have to involve your body. With mindfulness, with the energy of mindfulness, you turn on every cell in your body. With the power, with the energy of mindfulness, you turn on every cell of your body. and then you can walk. It is like electricity. You turn on all the lamps. This is the basic condition for you to succeed. You may like to bring your mind down to the level of your feet, on the sole of your feet, and you walk as if you kiss the earth with your feet. Because down there, every cell is turned on. They are capable of touching. You have turned on every cell in your body, including the cells down there on the sole of your feet. And that is why you can walk. You are completely free from your thinking about the past, your worries about the future. You are completely free from your projects, your sorrow, your fear, your anger. The energy of mindfulness has turned you on. You are alive. You are fully present in the here and the now. And that is the basic condition for you to touch the wonders of life in the Pure Land, in the Kingdom of God. You can enjoy deeply every step you make. It's like when you put a piece of chocolate into your mouth and you wait, you allow the chocolate to melt in your tongue. You are not rushing. The French say, ça fond dans la bouche. It's melting in your mouth. And you feel all the flavor, the taste of the piece of chocolate. You allow the feeling, you allow the sensation to be penetrating into yourself. You can also walk like that. Every step you make, you can enjoy deeply, like a piece of chocolate. You know that it's not good to eat too much chocolate. Christmas is approaching. But walking like this, you are not afraid of excessive consumption Each step brings healing and nourishment to you. Each step is like a piece of chocolate without cholesterol. And you are capable of that, of doing that. Enjoy the kingdom of God in the here and the now. Enjoy the pure land, the wonders of life in the here and the now. In order to do that, use the techniques of mindful breathing to generate the energy of mindfulness. And with the energy of mindfulness, you turn on all the cells in your body. This is easy. The friends say, c'est facile, c'est pas cher. You might like to walk slowly, alone, to taste every step. But you can also walk faster, and yet the pleasure can be the same. Mindfulness can be slow and can be quick. Don't think that mindfulness should be slow. In the sitting position, you also do the same. You are not walking, but you are breathing. Breathing is a kind of walk. In a sitting position, you turn on all the cells in your body. Remember, in the practice, you have to involve your body. Because your body is your mind. Is part of your mind. When you turn on all the cells in your body, they'll come in phase with the same frequency, the same wavelength, and you arrive at a highly unified state of being. Because all the cells, the totality of the cells in you, they become one, in complete harmony. And that is thanks to the stimulation of the energy of mindfulness. The cells in your body that are pacemaker cells. as soon as they are turned on by the energy of mindfulness, they begin to create the pace, and all the other cells will respond. And all the cells will sing in unison. They will be on the same frequency, the same wavelength. And you obtain a state of concentration. Mindfulness and concentration is the energy that can turn you on physically and mentally. And when every cell comes together as an organism, you enter into a state of concentration in perfect harmony. And that is the foundation of enlightenment, because when your mind and body function like that, there is mindfulness and concentration. And then, and in that state of being, it is easy to touch the truth, to touch the ultimate reality. Because mindfulness and concentration can help the cells to behave like one. There is no longer separation. The one behave like the all, and the one has become the all. And this is possible because of the energy called mindfulness and concentration. In body temperature, the Bose-Einstein condensate become possible. And you find yourself in a quantum field where every cell is seen as made of all the other cells, where the one becomes the all, and when the all can be seen in the one. And that is why insight is easy in the state of being, the insight of interbeing, the insight of no self, the insight of emptiness become very easy to realize. Many Zen practitioners of many generations have tried to fight sleepiness. They always feel sleepy when they sit in meditation. So many generations of Zen practitioners fight very hard in order to stay awake during sitting. I also in the past have fought a lot in order to stay awake during sitting. But I have found out that struggling like that does not bring any result. Only when you become very interested in what you are doing. Only when you experience bliss, happiness, that you can stay awake. And that is why you have to make your sitting interesting. Into a blessing. And suddenly there's so much to enjoy during sitting and working. And you don't have to fight anymore because you don't feel sleepy because it's so interesting. It's like a Dhamma talk. When you sleep, if you sleep during the Dhamma talk because you are bored, the Dhamma talk is not interesting. But if the Dhamma talk is very interesting, you cannot sleep. You are turned on. And you don't have to make any effort, and you are very awake. The same thing is true in the sitting, in the walking. If you find a way to enjoy, if you see that that is your sense, if you know that it is nourishing, healing, and you feel the happiness of the Dhamma practice, and then even if you don't try to be awake, you are awake because you enjoy deeply the sitting. If the sitting is boring, if you have to make a lot of effort to stay awake until the bell tell you that is the end of the sitting, that sitting is not interesting. That sitting does not bring you much. You lose your time by practicing. You have had the experience that you did not sleep at all that night. But in the morning, the Dhamma talk was so interesting, you did not feel sleepy, right? And if even if you slept very well the night before, and if the Dhamma talk is not interesting, you sleep, you still feel sleepy, right? That is why to make the practice interesting, to make the practice enjoyable, that is the answer. That is the best way or the only way to fight against sleepiness. You don't have to fight. That is the best way to fight. Fighting the non-fighting fight. That is true fight. If you are capable of turning on all the cells of your body, having them come together in great harmony and singing together the song of unification, of peace. And then your sorrow, your pain, your depression will naturally go away. And you don't need to do anything at all. because that state of being gives you a great capacity to heal. You don't do the healing, but the healing just come, just realize itself. We all know that if we allow our body to relax, to rest, our body will have the capacity to heal by itself. Everyone knows that. So the practice of sitting or walking, if done in the way I propose, will help your body and your mind to heal. We authorize them to heal. We are not standing on their way of healing, because the tendency to struggle, the tendency to always look for something is so strong in us. That we are no longer capable of being there, deeply established in the present moment, and allowing us to be completely in the moment, enjoying the moment. And that is what in the Buddhist tradition called shamatha, stopping, relaxing. The Buddha, our teacher, gave us very concrete practices. In the Sutra of Mindful Breathing, he offers us a few exercises in order to realize that. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body. He said, breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body. Sarva kaya. Sarva means the totality. Breathing in, I'm aware of the totality of my body, my whole body. It means every cell in my body. Your mindfulness should touch every cell in your body, not just a number of cells in the brain. Sarvakaya means the whole body. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. It's very clear. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. So the energy of mindfulness should touch all the cells in the body and should recognize the presence of the cell in the body, should turn on all the cells of the body and allow all the cells of the body to relax. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I release the tension in all the cells of my body. And that is why I said that when you practice, you have to involve your whole body, not a part of it, while sitting or walking. It's very helpful that in the sitting position, you embrace your whole body with the energy of mindfulness. And we learn now that our body is made of cells. At least 50 trillions of cells. And every cell of our body has the capacity of being alive by itself. Every cell has intelligence within, has the capacity of self-protecting, self-nourishing. Scientists have taken human cells and observed them in vitro. And if they give enough nutrition, our cells can live for a long time out of our body as separate entities. Our cells know how to protect themselves, how to get the nutriment, how to prevent the toxin to come in, how to open the membrane in order to receive oxygen and nutriment. So we are made of cells like that. Our cells are capable of listening, of sensing, of understanding. And that is why during the time of sitting and walking, we should pay attention to every cell. We should allow the energy of mindfulness to touch every cell and turn every cell on. And then they will come together in unison, and they will begin a concert. There is a state of unification, high unification, when they are all turned on and joined together as one organism. In that state of being, you have the feeling of well-being, of harmony, of happiness. And this is called the pháp lạc, the joy, the happiness of the practice. And we should feel the joy, the happiness of practice in the sitting position and in the walking position or in any other position of the body. In the Thiền, in the Zen tradition, we say that the practice of meditation is the daily food. And that is why walking is also getting food. and sitting is also getting the food. Thiền diệt vi thực. The joy, the happiness of meditation, of Zen, as daily food. So sitting is eating, walking is eating, getting the nutriment, and the joy, the happiness called the Dharma happiness. Pháp lạc. We have a brother in Upper Hamlet whose name is Pháp lạc. He smiles a lot. So practice sitting in such a way that you feel Pháp lạc, the happiness of the practice of the Dharma during the whole time of sitting. Practice walking meditation in such a way that you enjoy every step you make. Every step is nourishing, healing, bringing joy to you. Next year we are going to have a retreat on neurosciences and meditation. And the retreat will help us. The retreat will be an opportunity for us to come together, learning from each other, and put into the practice what you have discovered in meditation, in Buddhism, what you have discovered in neuroscience. One of the basic questions neuroscientists used to ask is, how come that the activities of the neurons, the activities of the brain, the computation of the brain is something objective, can bring out consciousness, which is something subjective. And so far, no one has been able to offer a satisfying answer. It seems the majority think like this. This is the brain, object of our studies. That is the brain. That is the object of neuroscience. And that is an objective thing. We agree that that is something that exists outside of our consciousness. The overwhelming majority is thinking like that. The mind, the brain exists as an objective reality. And from that objective things emerge consciousness, which is a subjective thing. And the question is how an objective thing can give rise to a subjective thing. How the computations of the neurons can bring out consciousness. And there is fear that if consciousness is something that emerges from the brain, and then if we change the brain, if we modify the brain, we can modify consciousness. In the Buddhist tradition, the way of looking is quite different. We think of the human person. We think of the human person as having form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. And these 5 elements, they interact. One of the 5 contain the other 4. Suppose this entity called B, brain, and this entity called C, consciousness. If you are trained in the Buddhist tradition, you see the brain as the object of your perception. First of all, you see the brain as the object of your perception. There is a perception. If there is no perception, how you know that the brain is there? Right? So we begin with a perception. Perception is one of the 5 skandhas. Form, feelings, perception. So perception is something that includes the subject and the object of perception. Object, perception. This is we draw like this. a line in order to distinguish between the element perceiver and the element object of being perceived. In the Buddhist tradition, we call this part Daksana Bhaga. Kiến phần. Hết pin rồi cả. Kiến phần. It can be translated as the perceiver. The perceiver. And this part of perception is called nimitta bhaga. Tướng phần. And it can be translated as the perceived. And according to the Buddhist insight, these two parts of perception arise together at the same time. If there is no object, there is no subject. If there is no subject, there is no object. To perceive always means to perceive something. La conscience, c'est toujours conscience de quelque chose. There cannot be a perceiver without the object perceived. And that is why it is like the line AH that give rise to two triangles. And this triangle and this one, they arise at the same time. The same thing is true with our perception. Subject and object arrive at the same time. Đồng thời cấu khởi, đồng thời tương ứng. They respond to each other. Respond to each other at the same time. Synchronization. Đồng bộ. So the Buddhist practitioner, they train themselves to see the object of perception as part of perception. So when they see the brain, they look at the brain, they know that the brain is the object of their perception. So they don't call it exactly something objective. Something objective. We all know Paris. There are those of us who stay in Paris for 20 years. There are those of us who have visited only Paris for a few days. And each Each one of us has an image of Paris that is the object of our perception. And if we compare all the Paris that we have, then no Paris resembles to another Paris, right? So Paris is, first of all, our perception. Even neuroscientists, each of them look at the brain differently. Each of them has his or her own brain, image of the brain. And then the brain is the object of our perception. And our perception is consciousness, is the mind. And logically speaking, it is with our consciousness that we are looking at the brain. And the brain becomes part of our consciousness. And then there are those of us who study consciousness. There are those of us who study psychology. And consciousness becomes an object of our studies. Because we can observe the brain and we can observe our consciousness. So consciousness is also something objective. If you say that the brain is something objective, and then consciousness as the object of your study should also be something objective also. Why do you believe that only the brain is objective and the consciousness is subjective? So both B and C are objects of consciousness. Consciousness studying consciousness. Consciousness becomes object of consciousness. And that is why in Buddhism we speak of another part. Of perception. The first part, Daksana Bhaga, the perceiver. The second part, Nimitta Bhaga, the perceived. And there is another part that observes both of them. And this is called Svabhava. Bhaga, tự thế phần, or tự chứng phần. This is the base. Anyone has a coin, 1 euro or 1 cent. When we look at the coin, we see two faces. In French, Pilefas, and in English what? Head and tails. You see the head, the first part is head, the second part is tail. The first aspect is head, the second aspect is tail. But both of them are base. On the third part, which is the copper, the metal. If the metal is not there, it's impossible for the head and the tail to manifest. So that part is called Svabhava, Bhaga, the base. Tuthe is the base, the substance. And in Buddhism, this is the real consciousness. This is only one small part of consciousness. And not only this come from the base, but this also come from the base. That is why this morning I said that our body is part of our mind. This has wisdom in it. You can keep. So this part can observe this and can also observe this. Because B and C can be the object of study, of inquiry, when you practice meditation. You make use of B, of C, but you also make use of we call it G, ground. Make use of G, the ground for the manifestation of both body and mind. And this is what in Buddhism that is called Vijnana. Thức. And what we call consciousness, most of it is E. Thức is Vijnana, is much broader than E, manas. I think the neuroscientists will profit a lot from this kind of insight. They can go very far if they base themselves on this insight. Einstein spoke of the fourth dimension, time. We have the space, which has 3 dimensions, and then if we add time, and then it will be the 4-dimension continuum. In Buddhism, we may speak of the 5 dimensions of 5 dimensions of reality. The first may be called rupa, matter. Form. The first dimension is rupa. There is a distinction analysis in the Buddhist teaching, but this distinction analysis is only for the sake of the practice, not for the sake of describing the world. Buddhism is more interested in how to transform suffering. Buddhism is less interested in interpreting reality of the world. The difference between science and Buddhism is that science is trying to describe the world, and Buddhism is more interested in solving the problem of suffering. But while trying to transform suffering, the teaching shows the way, and while showing the way, it expresses also the insight about reality. That is why we can profit. That is why from time to time there is distinction analysis in Buddhism. And we have said that kind of distinction, that kind of analysis is only for the sake of the practice and not for the sake of interpreting the world. Like when we speak of 5 skandhas, we have rupa, form, feeling, perceptions, mental formation, and consciousness. And if you look at these 5 skandhas, you see already the fact that this kind of distinction, this kind of analysis is only to help with the practice. Because mental formations in the teaching of Buddhism may include 51 categories. Mindfulness is one of them. Compassion is one of them. Anger is one of them. And feeling is one of them. Perception is one of the 51. And yet, Buddhism does not analyze it into 3: form, mental formation, and consciousness. Why not 3 but 5? Because feeling and perception are included in mental formations. So for the sake of description, you can say form, mental formations, and consciousness. That's enough. Why single out feelings and perceptions? Because in the practice, it's very important to deal with your feelings. It's very important to deal with perceptions. That is why these things are treated separately. And you can see very well that if there is analysis in Buddhism, that is to help the practice and not to represent, not to interpret the world, not to interpret reality for the sake of curiosity. And yet there is these mental formations, they are in consciousness. They are not something separate. Like when you say a river and you say the water, the drops of water in the river. So consciousness is like the river, and all mental formations are like drops of water in the river. Why don't say just consciousness? Because mental formations are part of consciousness. And that is why analysis, distinctions in Buddhism is for the sake of the practice. And then, according to the insight of Buddhism, consciousness involves nama and rupa. Rupa is form, and nama is the mind. In the 12 link, thập nhị nhân duyên, we learned that because of delusion, ignorance, that is why the impulses, the formations are born. Formations like anger, or craving, all these kind of afflictions are born because on the ground of confusion, of ignorance. And because of these afflictions, emerge consciousness. This is avidya. This is samskara. This is vijnana. And from consciousness arise jansak, namarupa. Mind and body. Psychosoma. So Vijnana here is the ground of consciousness and the body. The opposite of vijnana is prajna. When vijnana is completely purified, it becomes prajna. If you call it vijnana because there is illusion and negative formation in it, and because there is illusion and affliction in it, that is why body and mind manifest like that. From prajna, body and mind manifest in a different way. Because body and mind here carries delusion, afflictions in them. It's very clear that from the ground of vijnana are born, manifest body and mind. So consciousness, if it is vijnana, it includes both nama and rupa. And in that case, you can cross form, because in consciousness there are already form and the rest, like sensations, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and so on. So the conclusion is that in Buddhism, sometimes we have to distinguish this from that. Sometimes we have to analyze. But this distinction, this analysis, is only for the sake of the practice. We have to remember that. So, when I speak of the 5 dimensions, we have to bear in mind this is for the sake of the practice and not for the practice of describing the world. And the first dimension is rupa. And rupa, in the old time, it has 4 form. It's 4 form. Not only in India, but also in the West, people believe that the essence of rupa is water, fire, earth, and air. The 4 Mahabhuta, until we discover the atoms. In French, speaking in French, we distinguish between la matière inerte and la matière vivante, living matter or inanimate matter. In Buddhism, it has been a long time. People think of matter as composed by eyes, Eye is matter, ear, nose, tongue, body, not mind. And then form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental object. Nine. Mental objects means ideas. Like ideas we have of things. The image of a person that has had a big influence in us is there in us. And this, that image, like the image of our country, our city, our friends, they can intervene, they can condition our way of thinking and acting. They are energy, and as they are energy, they are matter, because energy and matter are very close. And this is written in Chinese, Pháp Sư Sở Nhiếp Sắc. Means the kind of matter that are included in mental objects. Pháp Sư, Dhamma Ayatana. Dhamma Ayatana. You know, sometimes that the object of our consciousness become something very strong in us. And they continue to weigh heavily on us. That our way of speaking, thinking, acting are conditioned by it. They follow us like a ghost. And they are a kind of energy, and that is also matter. And there is matter that is described as something that is extremely concentrated. Cực hạnh sắc. That is the atoms, that is the proton and the neutron, extremely concentrated. Cực lược sắc. Lược is a ce qui est très concentré. And abi sam sepika. In the old time, they have already been able to see that the smallest things that is very concentrated. Cực lược sắc, cực lược sắc, cực lược sắc. First. That which is very concentrated. And then come cực hạnh sắc. Translated by that which belong to space. Abhya Vakashika. And this kind of matter is very light. The mass is almost nothing, and there may be no mass at all, like the photon. And this is the neighbor of space. It is almost space. It's called lân hư trần. Lân hư trần means the neighbor of space. It is almost no matter. It is the neighbor of space. It is space. It's difficult to distinguish between space and this kind of matter. And then the kind of matter spoken of here is followed with thọ sở dẫn sắc. Samadhanika. That which belong to the mindfulness training. Ce qui appartient à la discipline d'engagement. You have listened to the 5 mindfulness training. You have listened to the 14 mindfulness trainings. And you feel that you have the need of receiving the trainings in order to live a better life, a life of practice, a life of peace and joy. So you ask the Sangha to transmit to you the 5 mindfulness trainings. Or you ask the Sangha to ordain you as a monk or a nun. And during that ceremony of ordination, you receive this kind of matter, of energy. And after the ordination, you become another person. Your face look brighter, you have more energy because you have the precept body in yourself. You can see the difference between an aspirant and a novice. After having received the 10 trainings, their face look very different. And there is much more energy in them. You don't see that energy, but that energy influence and motivate them to do the things that they have not been able to do before the ordination. And that is a kind of energy, that is a kind of matter spoken of in Buddhism. Those of us who have received the trainings, who have practiced in order to live according to the trainings, we have that kind of energy in us that people don't, and that is also part of rupa. And that since that that kind of matter does not manifest, and we call it vô biểu sắc, the matter that does not manifest on the appearance, but it is there. It makes you stronger, it makes you happier, more secure. And that is the practice of the precepts, the practice of the mindful trainings that you nourish in you with the with your daily life. And everyone who has received the trainings, the precepts, know that they have got energies. And they have to nourish that energy in order for the energy to grow and to protect them and to make them happy for a long time. So it's interesting to see how Buddhism think of matter, of lamachia. And here you don't see anymore the limit between energy and matter. And this is more than 2,000 years ago. The fourth is biến kế sở khởi sắc. This is also energy. And this is the energy come from the way you look at things. Biến kế means imagination, mental constructions. That which is mental construction, not reality. You think of father and son as two entities, different entities. You don't see the connection between the two. You don't see the Father in the Son, you don't see the Son in the Father. You are not capable of seeing the sunshine in the flower. You are not capable of seeing the cloud in the flower. You always discriminate. You think that everything is outside of everything else. That is a kind of a way of seeing based on discrimination, based on ignorance. And it brings a lot of suffering. And this is also energy, the energy that brings out a lot of suffering. Not like the energy samadhanika. This brings solidity and freedom and joy. This brings suffering, separation, delusion, and it is in you. And that is why you have to learn how to look at things differently. We have to see things not outside of each other. We have to learn things, to see things inside of each other. Now, David Bohm, that well-known scientist in Great Britain, he wrote a book with the title the two orders, the implicate order, the explicate order, and the implicate order. He practiced looking deeply as a physicist, and he was able to see that one electron is made of other electrons. He was capable of seeing that the one contains the all. And he said that we used to see things in their explicate order. We see things outside of each other. The sunshine is outside of the flower. The milk is outside of the ice cream. We don't see things in the implicate order. And seeing things only in the explicate order is biến cái sơ khởi, that which is made of mental constructions. It does not reflect reality as it is. So training ourselves in order to see the whole universe in a grain of mustard, and then you can touch the implicate order, and you can get rid of this kind of energy in you that creates so much suffering, which is made of mental constructions. And the last category of matter is định tự tại sở sinh. This is also a source of an energy that is the outcome of meditation, concentration, mindfulness. With mindfulness and concentration, you have that energy in you that can bring you freedom. Tự tại means freedom. And this is what I spoke about this morning. When we have When we practice mindful breathing, we generate the energy of mindfulness and concentration. And with that energy, we turn all the cells in our body on. And we bring everything together in harmony, in peace. And this energy, which is the base of that, the foundation of that peace and harmony, is considered to be a kind of rupa, very subtle. You cannot photography, you cannot draw, you cannot explain. So when we begin by saying that matter begin with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, mental object, and we continue with which is extremely concentrated, which is very light, very close to space, which is the effect of the mindfulness trainings, which is the effect of mental construction, and which is the freedom and the joy born from mindfulness and concentration. And you see that that is the description of matter in Buddhism. And you no longer see the line separating between nama, rupa, body and mind. In modern physics, the particle is sometimes described as a wave and sometimes described as a particle. The same particle sometimes manifests itself as a wave, energy, sometimes manifests itself as a particle. And in our daily way of seeing, this is a little bit difficult to accept. A particle should be a particle. A particle is different from a wave. A wave is a wave. It cannot be a particle. And yet, when people do the experimentation, they see that the same particle sometimes reveals itself as a wave, sometimes else reveals itself as a particle. And that is why they have invented a new word to call that particle a wavicle. Wavicle. It can be, it is a particle, it is at the same wavicle. Let us go back to what we draw in the beginning. This is the brain, this is the consciousness, this is the ground. The ground, Vijnana, sometimes manifests itself as a matter, sometimes manifests itself as consciousness. Like what you think to be matter, be careful. It might be consciousness. What you may think of consciousness, be aware. It may be matter, because you cannot draw a line between the two things. And this is a way out for the scientist who are stuck in the idea that matter is matter and mind is mind. The two are two different entities. But in the Buddhist teaching, both are manifestation from the same ground. And we can learn to look at the brain as consciousness. We can learn to look at the body as consciousness. We also can learn to look at consciousness as body. The lesson we can learn from this Dhamma talk is that we have to treat our body as our consciousness. The practice has to involve our body in it. You cannot just practice with your mind, because your body is your consciousness. Your body is one aspect of your consciousness, and your consciousness is a part of your body. And you cannot say that the body gives birth to consciousness, or consciousness gives birth to the body. It's not consciousness that emerges from a body, or the body emerges from consciousness, but they manifest together at the same time. Like the two triangles. Not one first and give rise to the other. And if you look like that, you can solve many questions. Này có sống thường mà. Pháp liệu đó rồi. Có liệu đây. Có liệu đâu. Giơ tay ra. Vẫn xuân đàn tụ vẫn còn bên nhau. Có nhận được cái bài của sư cô gửi hôm qua không? Cái bài á, cái bài đầu của là thường bài nó có trong máy rồi. Này của sư cô Đình Nghiêm. This is for New Year. Có rồi.